Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Mother's Day Month series. And this next athlete has been competing since 2012 and went pro at USA's in 2019. Aside from being an online coach for lifestyle and competition clients, she is a wife as well as a mother to two children, her daughter Scarlett, who's 5, and her son James, who is 3 years old. So welcome to the show, Chantel Hall. How are you doing?
Hi. Thanks, Celeste. I'm good.
Of course.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
I'm just enjoying my Arizona weather here.
Yeah, did you just move there?
Yeah, so I actually moved here during my prep for USA's last year.
Wow.
It was kind of crazy, but it was exciting at the same time. And honestly, I love it here. I never thought I'd love it so much, but it's really amazing weather here, and Utah is just cold so much of the year, and that's where I came from originally. And so it's been great. I've loved every minute of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely can imagine that shock going from Utah to Arizona, where Arizona is always
Yeah.
hot and Utah is definitely not always hot.
Well, and the thing is that Arizona is so nice. Like, I would say like 9 months out of the year, the weather is actually beautiful. So it's only really 3 months that it's really, really hot. So it's great. I have nothing to complain about. So
That's awesome. Well, I'm so glad to hear that, and that's super cool. And hopefully, we get to hear a little bit more about what that was like to move during that. But of course, I always start the show by asking, what is one thing you do or a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage?
oh man. You know, it's probably just it's just running through my routine. Like, as if I can, usually there's mirrors around, and it's really just like just staying confident and rehearsing my routine, and but not overthinking things at the same time, because whenever, especially getting to the national stage, like, you should know that, like the back of your hand. So it was really just like instilling like confidence in myself, like doing the poses, and seeing myself in the mirror, and just knowing that I was ready, to give my best on stage. And I would say, honestly, I really didn't have, I'd say USA's, when I came to USA's and turned pro there, that was the first time that I had ever been so calm backstage. And I just knew within my being that it was going to be good. And like, I just felt so confident at that point. And I really feel like that confidence just comes naturally. Like, when you're ready, when it's your time, you know it and you can feel it, in your body. So, uh,
I was actually going
yeah,
to
it was.
ask you if you knew going into that weekend that it was going to be your show.
I honestly, I remember talking to my coach, Lindsay, and, both her and I were just so eager to just get on stage and just see what the judges had to say, because we felt so confident about what I was bringing, and we just knew it was going to be good. And we just were just itching to just showcase it, and so I knew I was really confident with what I was bringing, and it was definitely my best package that I had ever brought. And so I did have this feeling of extra confidence, I would say. And especially after prejudging and what happened with that, I was feeling on cloud 9, because I knew at that point that I had gotten it. But I was very, very confident that I'd gotten it, but I
That's
just,
awesome. Yeah, and there's a lot I want to talk to you about with regard to motherhood, but also with regard to your whole journey as an athlete. And for anyone listening, I just want to give you guys a heads up because I've forgotten to do this in previous episodes. There are now episode timestamps on all of the episodes. So if you want to see what me and Chantel are going to talk about today or on this episode, you can go to the episode page on celestial.fit/podcast and you'll see all the episode timestamps. So you'll get an inside look at what we're going to be talking about and actually when we talk about it in the episode. So just giving you guys a heads up on that. And Chantel, I want to actually get back into your journey to
yeah,
USA's.
yeah.
Because you have been competing for so long and you actually were prepping yourself and coaching yourself, and then you decided to bring on Lindsay to help you. So what inspired you to do this, and then what changes did she make or maybe encourage you to make that you felt were really crucial to take you to the next level?
Yeah. So, prior to having kids, I had competed, um, before that, and I had taken like an overall at a show, which was really cool. And that was after I had my little girl. And then I took some time off and had my son. And then I decided after I had my son, I wanted to compete again. And I was going to train myself for that show. And I had worked really hard and I was feeling really good. And I came into the show and I didn't have enough knowledge about peaking correctly into a show. And specifically with my body type, I need a lot of food and sodium and to really fill out my muscles and peak properly. I need a lot of food. And I didn't really know that. I thought smaller was better, and coming in like really depleted and small would be good. And I remember I took second in my class at that show, and I was really disappointed because I had just come off this high like years before of taking overall, and I wanted to like reclaim my title,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, this will be so fun doing it myself. And so it was kind of a letdown. And I remember I was really frustrated, and I was like, well, yeah, I don't know, I guess. And looking at my stage pictures, I was like, I don't know if maybe I didn't, I'm not really proud of maybe what I brought. And I don't know why, I didn't know why. And Lindsay had been following me for a while, and I knew of her as well. And she reached out to me and she was like, hey, and she had followed my journey, and she was like, hey, like, how did it go? And I was like, I'm pretty disappointed, honestly. I thought it was going to go better. And anyway, she ended up talking to me about like, well, did you incorporate enough sodium? Like, did you, and carbs coming into that show? Cause she's like, your stage pictures, you look pretty flat. And I was like, well, maybe I didn't. And after talking with her, and I was like, you have a lot of knowledge and obviously more knowledge than me. Like, how about I would really like you to coach me? And she was, really excited about that. And I came onto her team as a sponsored athlete, and and at that time I was coaching, like lifestyle clients and
Mm-hmm.
competitors at the time as well. So I was, doing my own thing as a coach. And anyway, she, one of the, some of the, basic things she started incorporating into my training plan was, heavier lifting. I was lifting in, I would say, just like the higher rep range, like, 12 to 15 reps of like everything, and just not, she taught me, how to really focus on building up your strength so that you can push heavier weight at the 10 rep range. and
Mm-hmm.
and the importance of building up your strength so that you can add on size and push more weight and all of that. And that was new to me. I had never really delved into the lower rep ranges to focus on strength for a while, and that really helped me progress. And then also she pushed more food on me, and she knew that my body and my body type needed more food in order to grow. And so I did a show. So I started quickly training with her soon after that. And And then we prepped for a show that I think was the next month. And right away, she started reversing me up in calories. I was like at about 1,700 calories with like a refeed. And right away, she brought me up to like 2,000 calories, and just working on reversing me up and bringing a fuller package into my next show, which we did. And I ended up taking first in my class and almost taking overall at it was the Salt Lake City Showdown show, and
Mm-hmm.
that was really cool. And it was the first time that I was like, wow, like under like really seeing the effects of how we could manipulate food and sodium and fill out my muscles properly, so it was so
Yeah.
cool. And then from there, she we went into a slight off season, and then she helped me uh bring me into my first national show, and which before that I had never thought about competing nationally just because of the expenses, and I didn't even know if I had what it took really.
Wow.
And so she was like, yes, like let's go to the national level. Like I feel like it'll be a great experience, and if you want to go pro, like I feel like you definitely have the potential to go pro. And so it wasn't until I started prepping for my first national show in 2018 at USA's that I had really gotten it in my head of making, of becoming a pro, even a goal of mine.
Mm.
So, and then when I did that show, I ended up taking third at my first national show. And that
Wow.
was definitely a high. And it was amazing. And then, but anyways, so I'm kind of getting off track there, but
No, I'm loving it.
those were really big things that Lindsay helped to change with me. And just I learned so much just from that experience of working with her, and I've been able to apply that continually as we've worked together as a team of continually bringing better packages for myself. And I've been able to I recently after that joined as a coach on the Fit Bliss team to be a co-coach with Lindsay, and have applied all of those principles that she taught me through that to my clients now and through the competitors that I train now. So honestly, just, working with Lindsay has been one of the best things I could have ever done. I've just grown so much as a person and in knowledge and experience, and it's been great. So
That's awesome. No, that's so great to hear. And I appreciate you telling us a bit more about your journey and what that really looked like for you, because there were certain things I was really wondering about that you touched on. And that was one of the things you touched on was actually refeeds and how you were incorporating
yeah.
those every single week. And so I know this is something you have posted about on Instagram. Like I've watched your stories and you have like a specific approach to it. So can you explain that to us, and also why you do this, and how do you know to incorporate it with your own clients?
So yeah, I like refeeds, and I always say that, refeeds are going to be more crucial the leaner you get. They're going to be something that's very important for you to continue implementing the leaner you get. But, you know, I feel like during my preps, in the initial phases of my preps, my refeeds aren't quite as big. Maybe they're not quite as frequent. Um, and then the leaner I get, they become, more frequent and bigger. And so much of it just depends on the stage you are at with your body, and the amount of leanness you have on your body. And so a lot of it's kind of sometimes it can go both ways. Sometimes a client really needs the mental break. And even if it sets them back just a little bit, that mental break is what helps propel them forward, and
Mm-hmm.
continues getting them forward, which if that's the case, great. If that's going to be a positive thing that we keep in, then great. And, And then, but those, I know, those clients, the competition clients that are having to meet a certain deadline, or we're having to really be aggressive, then, I have to explain to them that it is important to maybe, take them out for a longer duration. Maybe instead of every 7 days, we go every 10 days or every 14 days, or keep them smaller. So it really just so much depends on the stage that we're at with fat loss, and the time frame of things, and just with the biological feedback that I'm getting back from the client. So if a client is like, I'm not really feeling that hungry this week, and we're still like in the beginning stages of fat loss, then we're for sure okay to push that refeed out.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I feel like those are the clients that do the best, are those that are very intuitive with the process, and things aren't so much set in stone, and they're listening to their body, they're working with their body and not being so structured about it. So,
Mm.
um, anyways, I hope that, and what was
No,
the,
that definitely, no, that definitely answered the question. And I like what you just said about how the people who are more intuitive with their body and really listening and also expressing that to you as their coach end up being more
yeah.
successful, because I think
Oh,
there's a lot of girls I think are afraid to share what's really going on, like how hungry are you,
yeah.
how sleepy are you, how energized are you, and yet all of those are very important points of data that I'm sure for you, especially as a coach, not just as the individual, but that can help to guide the decision making process.
Yeah. And I think it's simply like, some people just don't even know what to look out for. They don't know
Mm-hmm.
what to feel. And so, they kind of they look at they look to their coach for that, like, all
Yes.
knowing kind of guidance. And it's like, well, I do have a plan in place here, but I can progress you a lot better with more detailed information. And I actually just did a spiel on this on my Instagram story, because I feel like it's just such an important thing for anybody working with a coach. The more detailed you can be with what you're telling your coach, it just gives them so much more information to work with. And I do utilize, the Fit Bliss coaches. We have like a Google spreadsheet that is very thorough and detailed with, asking questions every week to our clients, and they fill out these questions. And I've noticed, working with some individuals are very detailed in their responses, and then other clients are just very like yes, no, full, hungry, just very, less elaborate. Um, and so, I try to encourage more details, the better.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I think that's probably motivating for girls listening to know that that's okay and it's important, and you're not
Yeah.
bothering your coach. And plus, then your coach doesn't have to come out and ask you, like, when was the last time you pooped? Or how have
Right.
you been feeling in this, when you're having days that you're lower in carb or you're high, instead you can just communicate that info. But like you said, there is that let me hire a coach, tell me exactly what to do that goes into it. But I really believe in we need to be off of autopilot as much as possible, because sometimes competitors rely on competing to be like their routine and their saving grace, and their type 1 personality gets fed and they have all this control. But in reality, then they're actually losing long-term control, in my opinion, because they're disconnecting from their body's true needs or their true mental needs, which can cause all sorts of fun issues later. So I think
Yeah.
that's really important.
Yeah. I feel like, one of the biggest, highlights that I have, coaching women through like a fitness journey, is seeing how they grow as an individual and become so in tune with their body. Like, it is so fun to see people be able to make all of these, realizations through the process of like, oh, I've noticed, like, if I do this, then it really helps me push through my hunger. Or I notice if I eat this, I don't really feel very well. So I've been, eating more of these types of foods, or just, people are just, they become so in tune with their body, and typically they never were like that before. They would just kind of, I think a lot of people, they mindlessly eat, or they just kind of go through the motions of things. And when things are, more structured and laid out of what they're supposed to be doing, or it just helps them, dig deep and really see things. And it's just really fun to see.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think it's awesome. And it's cool that we have this sport to help us do that. And you also talked about how, as you were prepping for the show, and you would actually see and feel the impact of having diet changes for yourself, and how it allowed you to come in fuller and looking just better than you had before, where in the past you would look flat. So I actually was looking at your photos. I was like, dang, like she looks so much fuller when you won your pro card. Like it looked like your upper body just
Oh,
grew, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah. And a lot of that was, yeah, it's, I mean, a lot of it was just this, I feel like, each year I've grown so much in knowledge over, just really finding what exercises work best for me, and learning how to engage my muscles better. And, um, and that has played in, a big impact
Mm-hmm.
on how I've continued to grow. But yes, like just learning how to properly peak myself has been, very important. And Lindsay and I, for my prep into USA's, we did a lot of practice peak weeks. So we took the time and effort to really fine tune things and figure out. So there was no questioning, no, we knew, hey, if I have a burger and fries the night before, I'm golden for the next day. And then before stage, if I can have a bunch of, salty potato chips and stuff. So we did a lot of these practice peak weeks, which was awesome and gave me a lot of confidence coming into it. Cause
Yeah.
after USA's in 2018, I actually competed at Miami Nationals, and I didn't peak properly for that show. And I came in looking flatter, and I didn't place as well. I got second call outs, and it kind of put fear inside of me that I was like, oh shoot, like I never want this to happen again. Like, you put in all this work, and you want to make sure that you peak
Mm-hmm.
properly into a show. And so Lindsay and I made sure that, we did a lot of practicing beforehand to get things, 100% figured out. And then that's, I came into USA's feeling super confident and knowing, what we had to do. So
And were you reversing your way into USA's?
yeah, so with moving, and packing up my house in Utah,
Mm-hmm.
and getting everything in the moving truck and getting down to Arizona, I feel like we didn't really have to adjust my calories very much that time. I was still averaging around probably like 1900 calories with a refeed. But then once I got down to Arizona, and I continued leaning up on that. And then once I got to stage leanness, we were able to reverse me up to about 2100 calories. And that's what I came into the
That's
show eating,
awesome.
was 2100 calories. My body does it handle, once I get down to stage leanness, which usually it takes me hitting calories anywhere from 1700 to 1900 calories is my deficit calories. And once I get down to stage leanness, I can maintain that leanness on pretty decently high food, anywhere around 2000 calories, with weekly refeeds. So my body just handles, maintaining, a leanness really well. So I felt awesome coming into USA's, definitely on that much food.
What do you think allows you to do that? Because not a lot of people maybe have worked their way up to be able to do that, or sometimes it just doesn't work that way for some people.
I mean, I feel like, I've always had a leaner physique. And I feel like if I were to say what my body type was, I definitely have more of an ectomorph type body type.
Mhm.
I have a hard time putting on muscle. I handle, a lot of food easily. And I've never been like, oh, you know, I've never really carried a whole bunch of body fat at any point in my life, but, my struggle has been putting on muscle. That's been my main struggle. But I think what helps me handle that, and because I feel like I have to put in work in order to keep my metabolism strong, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like especially during my off season, I actually intuitively eat, but I am the kind of person where I am a creature of habit, and I stick to the same types of meals, very similar to the meals I eat in my off season are very similar to the meals I eat during prep. And so I have a very easy time hitting protein and keeping my calories consistent at all times. And so, I feel like with a combination of my body type and my consistency in and out of prep
Mm-hmm.
and with food, it really has made a big impact on things. And I would say, during prep, one of the two really big things that I think help me handle a lot of food while I'm prepping is I eat a lot of whole foods. I stay very consistent with the same types of meals and throughout my prep with small changes here and there. But I think staying really consistent with the same types of foods and meals um, helps with your overall consistency, because I am a believer in flexible dieting, and I love flexible dieting because I'm able to fit in foods that work best for my digestion, that keep me mentally happy and sane throughout my prep. But I do feel like it makes a big difference, like eating more whole food based foods during your prep, so
Mm-hmm.
I think all of that makes a big difference. I do my best to, you know, get in a really good amount of fruits and vegetables and lean meats, keep my whey protein, at lower amounts, like 1 to 2 servings a day. And then I really don't eat any artificial sugars. And I stick to Truvia as my main sugar because I haven't noticed any adverse effects from that. But so, I feel like that makes a big difference. I think a lot of competitors don't realize maybe how many processed packaged foods or sugar-free foods that they're eating that's really just not nourishing their body and nourishing their thyroid and hormones and all of that, that's going to allow them to handle more food and keep their metabolism, up and running optimally. So
Mm. I like that you said, you believe in flexible dieting, but for the sake of nourishing your body and being able to give your body
yeah,
specifically what she needs, which I think is a fantastic way of looking at it. And you
yeah,
also said in your improvement season, you actually do intuitive eating while still
mhm,
maintaining that consistency of the foods you really enjoy and that nourish your body.
yeah.
Why do you do intuitive eating in the improvement season, and at what point do you start eating intuitively after a show?
You know, um, so for me, and I guess I know that my body handles a fair amount of food pretty easily. So for me, I I feel like I can handle going into, if you think about it, if I go into a show and I'm eating 2,100 calories already, me going into an intuitive off season, I'm I'm going to probably be averaging, anywhere from the 2,100 calories to 2,500 calories a day, which is going to be fine for me. And I'm not going to gain an excess amount of weight, staying within that range. And so I guess for me, because I can come in on such high calories, it's just easy for me to transition into an intuitive eating, because even
Mm-hmm.
if I have a little bit of variance within that, it's not going to be enough to affect me, if that makes sense. So I feel like with what I just naturally like to eat and I naturally like to eat more whole foods. I
Mhm.
naturally, I've been doing this for so long. I I take into account, like I pay attention to my hunger cues, to when I'm full, and drinking water and continuing to do all that. And so I feel like, I tell clients a lot, like being able to intuitively eat comes with experience and comes with time of like getting to this point where you've adopted this new way of eating that works for you and you love it, and you can continue doing that even when you're given, even when you don't have to track anymore. You still choose to live that way because you know why you eat those certain foods, because you feel good and you choose, even, so
Mhm.
um so i I actually went straight into intuitive eating after USA's. And I gradually, I got up to, so I came into USA's at about 118 pounds. And for the next 5 months, I just slowly increased in weight, and I got up to about 129 to 130 pounds. So my goal is always, as I start intuitive eating, my goal is to always stay within 10 pounds of my stage weight. So if I ever went into intuitive eating and my weight just really started skyrocketing, and then I would I would know that probably going back into tracking would be a good idea. But because I monitor my weight, I monitor how I'm feeling, I listen to my hunger cues, I try to incorporate whole foods, and then, I think as long as you're being able to, pay attention to all that, then you're fine, you know. But
Mhm.
I know a lot of it depends on the person and the experience that that person has, and with the comfort level that they have, and with, some people don't have maybe they don't love eating lots and lots of whole foods, and they love their treats, and it's going to be better for them to not intuitively eat because they haven't found that balance yet, that's best for their body. Or so uh,
Mhm. Yeah, I
yeah.
find that like a lot of the girls who come to me for help with their relationship with food, because that's what I focus on. I don't do physique or diet or anything like that, but
Uh-huh.
relationship with food and people's body image, all that. When girls come to me specifically struggling with their relationship with food, something that I help them and guide them to focus on a lot is how the food they're eating and choosing is actually supporting them, not just in their goals, but in their body's function and the nutritional value to it. Not like macros, but I mean like the actual benefit to eating what they're eating because of
Right.
the reasons you're mentioning, which is you want to be able to live a lifestyle where you're motivated to continue it even after. So it can't just be about the physique or the weight or the stage. It's got to be because you genuinely see the benefit in doing that. And I would say
Right.
that, if you're listening and you're one of those people who's like, I could never intuitively eat because I can't trust myself around food, then you should reach out to me and
Right.
join my food relationship program because I genuinely know that it can help you and I believe in it. So I'm just throwing that out there because I do
Oh yeah.
think, like there's a level of intuitive eating that comes with like what you said, which is experience. And then there's people who fear it because they don't
Right.
trust themselves. And it's like, have a lot of people on your team so that you
Mhm.
can live the best lifestyle for you. And like you said, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And there's also, I think, like a time and a place. And what you mentioned earlier with like, there's different variables to it as well. Like how does your body respond? And what does your body need? And plus,
Mhm.
what you really enjoy. So I appreciate your perspective on that. And I actually wanted to ask you something that one of the listeners submitted as I was listening to you talk, and that is, how do you teach your kids about nutrition or approach the topic of nutrition without giving them any disordered thoughts about food or dieting mentality or caloric restriction?
Yeah, it's, and it is hard with really young children to do that. But I feel like as kids get to be where, like how old my little girl is, like age 5, then they're starting to understand things a little bit more. And I'm able to tell Scarlett, like, you know, um, eating lots and lots of sugar is not going to make you feel good. It's not going to make your stomach feel good. And you want to eat, like this. I try to tell her like what foods contain what, so like this has protein in it, and protein's really good to help you grow strong. And fruits and vegetables contain vitamins that help you feel good and help you, be able to be healthier. And it's kind of hard to tell them things that their little brains can wrap their minds around. But I feel like probably one of the biggest things that I've done with like my little girl is, just encourage her if she's feeling snacky, okay, what was the last thing you had to eat? If the last thing you had to eat was like some Oreos or something, then let's shoot for a healthy snack this time around. Okay. So let's have like an apple or a cheese stick or something, you know, um, and she seems to do really well with that. Just, you know,
Mhm.
teaching her how to balance things out in that way. So,
Again, that consideration for nourishment and nutrition, you're basically
mhm.
reinforcing that with them. And what does she think about competing? And how have you explained it to her? Sorry for that
Yeah,
interruption.
no, yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. As she's gotten older, she actually, uh, I did a local show before I went to USA's, and that was the first show that she had came to and watched me. And because she had only seen me posing at home, and she never had seen me get on stage or anything. And I think it was a really cool thing for her to see, because she got to connect the dots of like, oh, this is what my mommy does like at home.
Oh.
When she's posing, or when she's using her scale to make a recipe or something like that, and it was cool. And she really liked the trophy part of it, that it was like a competition. It was like, oh, well, I get a trophy like that one day. And I was like, yeah, with whatever you choose to do, honey, with whatever, type of thing you want to work hard towards, you will have a trophy one day. And or some type of, anyways. and
Mhm.
and so um yeah, explaining competing to her a lot of the time, I've said like, you know mommy likes to eat lots of fruits and vegetables because that's what helps me grow strong and be able to lift weights in the gym and, be stronger. And
Mm.
so that's usually what I say. It's all about like, having strength. And it's never like, this is what I eat to look skinny or to lean down. Like, never would I say that.
Right.
It's all about just strength. And like, and they like that. And me and my husband and I both, go to the gym and lift weights. And so they see that, and they see that we, take pride in making ourselves stronger, and
Mm.
having goals to focus on. And so I think that's been the two biggest things that I've tried to tell her about competing, is like, it's something fun that mommy does for myself. It's a competition that mommy has fun with. And, I love getting stronger. And I think she understands that, and that,
Mhm.
but yeah,
So
mhm.
how do you structure your meals, like family meals, um, around your preps?
Yeah. And I know this can be a really big issue, you know, with
Mhm.
families, and not maybe wanting to cook like three separate meals every night. That's just not really doable for most people. I think one of the biggest things is just keeping things simple. So like keeping your cooking simple and able to be able to, make small adjustments too. So, which is really easy to do. I think a lot of women maybe feel like they've got to, still make these extravagant dinners, or like casserole dinners, or, really you can just get creative with pairing a protein with a carb and a fat. And there's lots of different ways that lots of meals that you can do that with. And I think finding meals that you can keep kind of separated, like the ingredients separated, so that you can put these meals together in a way that's easy for you to track. So for example, I just off the top of my head, this is a really like easy meal that's good for my family and for me. I'd make like this teriyaki chicken um, dish. And for me, if I'm, at 1700 calories and maybe don't have room for a bunch of rice, I'll do my little steamed cabbage on the side and then still have all the rice for the rest of my family. And I'm not going to put teriyaki, sauce on my chicken, but I'll put it on theirs, and, I'll weigh mine out separately. And then once I'm done weighing out my chicken, then I'll, finish up with theirs and put the teriyaki sauce on it and how much rice they want. So kind of I think it's really easy when you just can dissect meals, and before putting the rest of the meal together, keep the meal dissected so you can weigh out your meal and then do whatever you want with, the rest of the food for your family, if that makes sense. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate how you broke that down. And I think that makes it easier to, I guess, comprehend, especially
yeah.
because this is asked by someone who isn't a mom yet but wants to be. And so I think she's
Yeah.
trying to get into that planning stage of how will life actually look? And,
Mhm.
speaking to that point, I'm curious if your kids have ever complained about you competing in the lifestyle it requires.
No, they really haven't. They really haven't. I feel
That's
like
cool.
when your kids are so young, when kids are young, they are pretty easily made happy. Like if you feed them food and you spend some time with them and you take them to the park, like I don't know, it's pretty doable. When I think things get maybe more challenging when maybe your kids are in more of like that, not older like teens, but maybe that middle part maybe would be a little where they're just more aware of things. But when
Mhm.
they're young, it's pretty easy. I feel like if you can manage your days well and plan things out, I feel like it's really doable with young children, to be honest. I guess
Yeah.
that's experience though.
That definitely makes sense. Like, and I've had moms on the show before who have shared their experiences and they've had different age kids. I'm excited to talk to more of them about it, but it's so great to hear different perspectives and how, for you, you're still able to focus on being a mom while also being a bodybuilder. And uh,
Yeah.
how do you actually, maybe you could share some of the strategies or tools or things you do to prioritize each of the different areas of your life, from work, coaching, family, bodybuilding, being a mom, all these different areas, being a wife. How do you manage, and what are some of the tools you could share with us?
I think just staying prepared and planning out your days as best you can is just one of your best bets to making things doable. It's like, I always, I mean, I'm pretty, like I said, I keep to, a handful of like my go-to meals, and so I know what I need for that week in order to stay on track with my macros, as long as I have these certain foods that are my, go-to foods to make this meal or this meal. And, I feel like I usually always have my day pre-tracked out, so beginning of the day, I've got at least a really good idea of what I'm going to be eating the rest of that day. And so there's a lot, like I can't stress enough about pre-tracking your food in, especially if you're maybe new to competing or a new mom or whatever. Like when you pre-log your food in, then there's much less stress involved with, because you already know like, oh well, I'll have to eat this milk this time, this milk this time. And then there's less stress and less time that you have to spend on your phone trying to calculate things in during the day, you know and so you're already prepared, and hopefully you've taken taken a day out where you can prep a bunch of chickens so you can easily throw it into meals really quick. All of those, I think a lot of people know,
Mhm.
taking a day to meal prep is one of those basic things that most people know, but it really is so helpful, that and pre-logging your food. So then mentally, because being a mom, you have a lot of other people you're trying to help throughout the day, these, your kids that you're trying to
Mhm.
help and your husband. So it's just a lot less, requires a lot less mental work, when things are already thought out and prepared. So um and I feel like, as for like managing work and the kids, and um I feel like as a mom, I feel like most moms are already really good at prioritizing their days and fitting in.
Mhm.
Like, they know that they've got a little time here for that, a little time here for that. Like, I feel like moms don't really have, I mean, they really try to use up every ounce of their time towards something. You could always be doing something, whether it's doing the laundry or prepping some food for dinner or whatever. And so I think just being able to set aside maybe different times of the day where you do different things is really helpful. I personally, um, I fit in, with me doing online check-ins and everything. I fit in my check-ins throughout the day. Whenever I have a 10-15 minute break from the kids or whatever, I'll sit down and do it,
Mhm.
and, and I, and that works well for me. But I think just the more that you can prioritize your time and, plan things out ahead of time, the better. That's just the best thing you could do.
I love that. And it's interesting how this lifestyle can prepare a lot of us for that, as well as just like the busy lives we're already leading. But how have you managed to work out? One of our listeners has children who are under 2. Okay, and so
Mhm.
how did you work out and manage when your kids were younger?
So to be honest, I know when I had my little girl Scarlett, and I was a new mom, and I didn't bring her to the gym until she was 6 months old. So I guess that's still pretty young, maybe for some people, but I started bringing her to the gym daycare at 6 months old. And gosh, I think I started bringing my son James when he was, gosh, probably like a month and a half old. He would just sleep in his car seat there. And
No.
I was okay with that, and I trusted the daycare workers. They were always just so great to my kids. And I know a lot of women have told me, or a lot of clients have shared, like, oh, my kids hate going to the gym daycare, or they just don't like it. And what I have to say is, well, I started really young with my kids, and so it was just part of our normal routine.
Mhm.
They actually really enjoyed having some place to go to break up the day, and typically there's kids their same age in there, and so it was really just a nice play date. And I know a lot of that depends on, the type of gym daycare that's at the gym for certain people. And maybe some didn't have maybe as great, some don't have as great of a daycare as maybe I had. But at least for me, I feel like it actually was really beneficial to start them out young going, and that was what they got used to, and they really actually enjoyed it. And um and but if for whatever reason, like, your kids get sick, and then I would know to wake up extra early before my husband went to work and get in a workout if I needed to do that. So those were the two things, that I just,
Mhm.
waking up early when I need to was. And I know, I guess not every woman maybe has that luxury either. Maybe their husband, you know, has a more, their schedule isn't so set in stone. And I know, like, one of my good friends, her husband's a surgeon, and so she can't just wake up super early and go to the
Yeah.
gym. But yeah, I feel like, um yeah,
Like making it work with your particular
Yeah.
circumstance and understanding that if it's not a
Yeah.
routine already, it'll have to become one. And I imagine that requires some grace too for those people who go through that. But it is
Mhm.
interesting to hear too, because you were actually competing before you decided to have kids, and then you took time to have kids. So you were
Mhm.
competing for 3 years before having Scarlett, and then you had
Mhm.
James 2 years later, and you actually had won an overall in between that time frame. So what
Mhm.
was your competition career like in this time frame?
Um, I guess I'm so what are you asking exactly? I
Like,
think
when you were competing before you had kids,
mhm.
you were competing at the regional level, and
Oh,
then when you decided to have Scarlett, how did you know like you were going to go back into competing, and then what did you,
oh.
yeah,
Mhm.
all of that, like what led to that whole take time off to have kids, have one child, then go back and compete and have
Yeah.
another?
I guess I mean, I was a collegiate athlete and I in college I ran track and so I always have loved competing. It's always been something that brings me a lot of joy and brings life to my soul. And so I knew, so once I started competing shortly after I finished running track in college and I fell in love with it. And I loved the challenge of it and the fact that I could aesthetically change my physique, and it wasn't, it was like competing had now become more like less performance based and more like aesthetic, which I really, really liked. And so I just fell in love with it. And then it was getting to the point where, my husband and I had been married for 4 years and we just had felt like we always had wanted kids. So it was just time. And so I had no doubt that I would get back into it because I loved it so much. So I was really excited, after I had Scarlett to get fit again. And I've always had that love for fitness. And so it was really easy for me to snap back because I have always been someone who just I do things because of the way that they make me feel. So it
Mhm.
wasn't just doing it because I wanted to be trim again. It was because like I love the way I feel mentally, emotionally, and physically when I am, at the gym or eating healthy and just I that's what always would drive me was just I always just felt so good when I was doing those things. So it was, through each process, or throughout the, of having kids and through that process, I always came back to wanting those same feelings of feeling healthy and strong and so it was just really easy for me to continue pushing that through my pregnancies and then snapping back really fast and I feel like competing is just kind of that fun end product of what I love to do underneath it all, so
Mhm.
it was just easy to want to push for that because I already loved what I was doing to get there.
It wasn't like, oh, great, now I have to compete just to get my body back. It was
Oh,
like,
no, yeah, no.
I love this, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it was definitely like that was just a fun thing, a fun product of what I wanted to really, accomplish from all of that.
So, when you shifted your focus to be on building your family, it sounded like your focus was still on competing because it was just part of your lifestyle. But did you notice a change to your body after pregnancies and after having your babies? Like, how was your body different?
Yeah, I'd say so through both of my pregnancies, I really did a good job staying, active and fit. I lifted weights through both of my pregnancies because it felt good to do that. I stopped running in my pregnancies because that was something that did not work well for my body. I didn't like had a lot of pain running, but lifting weights was awesome. So I did that, and I really feel like that helped me, keep good muscle tone, and helped to, it just, and like people always say, it helped me snap back a lot faster because I didn't have to do all this catching up. My body was like, oh yeah, we've been like, activating and stimulating these muscles a little bit throughout these, 9-10 months. So we're good to go, and it's just so important and it's to stay active, during your pregnancy. And I didn't really, the only thing that I noticed was, um, I did get a little bit of ab separation, and I actually got an umbilical hernia that I ended up getting fixed. I actually didn't end up getting it fixed until I was, I got it during my little girl's pregnancy, and then I didn't get it fixed until I was, had my second pregnancy with James. So that was really the only thing I really noticed, was some ab separation, and my abs were a little different after. Luckily, I didn't get any stretch marks, like nothing really noticeable or anything. But I think a lot of that was also due to, I didn't gain loads of weight during my pregnancies. And I still valued lifting, staying strong during my pregnancy, and also still eating foods, lots of whole foods, and keeping my protein up. Um, I remember I was still obsessed over my chocolate microwave cake. I'd have that like every night as my indulgent, treat. And so I think it's just so important to, really try and adopt a lifestyle that that you can enjoy and sustain, and give you, results that make you happy and make you feel good, and just learning to love it. And so then, no matter what stage you're going through in your life, whether it's having kids or whatever, you're just able to apply all of those same principles. And it's not hard. You enjoy it, and you know your reasonings for doing that. you know
And like you said, that's coming from a positive place for you.
yeah,
I
for
love
sure.
that. And okay, so what's this chocolate microwave cake that you like can't live without?
Oh my god, I don't even know when I first made this up, but it was years and years ago, and I was like, I've always loved, like, I love my moments to indulge in food for sure. And I was just wanting a healthy treat that didn't make me feel sick, but that I could feel like I was indulging in. And I was like, I gotta find just an amazing high protein treat that I can make that just hits the spot every time. And so I discovered this chocolate microwave cake. I think I went on to Pinterest first, and I kind of got ideas of how to put it together, and then it just came about into this recipe. It's really macro friendly. You can check out my Instagram for it. It's in my highlights. But it's basically just all protein. It's a chocolate whey protein microwave cake, and I literally had that cake every day for a year straight, I think, at the end of the night with ice cream on top. And it's so big, you just feel like you're eating this big ginormous piece of cake, and it's awesome. The one thing with that cake is every microwave and whey protein is a little different, so you have to kind of mess around with it a little bit and find the liquid, or the liquid amount that works best for it, and the time frame, and the time to cook it in the microwave that works best for you. But I've had so many people tell me how much they love it, and how it just saves them and allows them to you know um, get rid of their, or to satisfy their sweet tooth, while still
Hmm.
staying back. So
I love that. Well, I'm definitely going to be having people go to your Instagram then, and then not only for to connect with you, but to get that recipe. And I think it's awesome to have those things you look forward to. I've actually been doing something similar. I have like way, like a clear, like a isopure. It's kind of like that. So I take a scoop of that, and it's a powder form from a company that I get it from. And then anyway, put that in a bowl with a little water, like you said. And then
Mm-hmm.
I top it with like a blueberry nut butter from Legendary Foods, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
And it tastes like a lemon blueberry cake. And I look forward to it every night because it's
Yum.
like the same exact macros as having my egg whites and almonds that I never looked forward to. I was always
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I would just chug it, So
Ah,
giving myself that freedom and flexibility with
oh,
macros, even
yeah.
though I follow a meal plan, I've learned to let myself start, okay, let me just replace the macros, and I always go, well, if someone was allergic to this. Anyway, it is
Right.
so good. And it's nice to have something to look forward to, like you said, because then you have even more reason to adhere to your plan because it not only makes you feel good, but you enjoy it.
Oh yeah. And it just, I've always, I think as a mom, it's like after you put your kids down to bed at night, it's like, gosh, you just want like that last little treat or meal of the day that you can sit and eat and enjoy and watch your Netflix while your kids are in bed. And just, I think as a mom, it's just that last meal or treat of the night is everything. And it's just so nice to have something like that to look forward to and relax and chill out. And I feel like, yeah, being a mom, it's stressful, and it's hard to stay on point throughout the day. And it can be hard, you're stressed out, you've got your kids' snacks laying around everywhere. And I feel like it helps so many women out who have like utilized this chocolate cake or something else that works for them to know like they can much more easily say no to things when they've got that last amazing little treat at the end of the night that is their saving grace.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like just finding those moments of pause for yourself, whether or not you're a mom, but especially if you're a mom. I have so much respect for moms. I think like you guys are super women. So it's amazing to me and I love learning from you guys because I think if it's like I look at my life, I'm like, I'm so busy, but then you think about a mom who's doing all of that and more, and you're like, I'm not that busy. They're raising children, they're raising these human beings. So I love
Yeah.
to hear, your experience with that and how you've been able to keep your personal goals at the forefront of your mind and how it's seamlessly worked into your life thus far as a mother. And um, another thing I wanted to ask you actually, just in regards to being a mom before I go kind of back into something about your competing, but when
Mhm.
did you know it was a good time to actually get back into competing after your pregnancies?
So, yeah, it's kind of funny. I did want to talk about this because I would
Mm-hmm.
have done it differently if I would have gone
Mm,
back knowing what I know now. So after I had James, and I had worked out pretty intensely at the gym like throughout his pregnancy for sure. And after I had him, I was just so eager to get back and to drop my baby weight and to get leaner. And it was about, so I started my prep when I had finished breastfeeding with him. So I did breastfeed both of my kids, and I knew that for me, I didn't want the stress of like losing my milk or anything.
mm,
If and starting a prep while I was breastfeeding, I didn't feel like I wanted that extra stress. I know people have done that, but I was like, I'm going to breastfeed for at least, pretty much a year, and then I'll start my prep, which was fine. And that's what I would do, every time. If I were to have more kids, I'd still do that. So I'd wait until after I was done breastfeeding. And plus, I really believe that when you're breastfeeding, your body just naturally holds on to that last little bit of body fat because of the hormones you produce when you breastfeed. And it's just your body assuring that you have that enough body fat on you to keep producing milk. So I feel like in order to get stage lean, it would be hard to imagine it not starting to affect your breast milk, at a certain point. So I just didn't want to mess with that. So I waited to start prepping until 11 months after I had him. and I was fine to stop breastfeeding at that point. But what I would have done if I would have gone back is I think I would have definitely gone into more of a building phase for a while, and continue, making sure I had enough muscle on me, because at the time, I didn't really understand how much muscle I really needed on me in order to be more competitive. In my mind, it was still a matter of, oh, I just need to be leaner. I need to be leaner. And, I still have baby fat on me. So now I just need to lean down and then I'll be and compete, And so now, like, if I were to go back then in the mindset I have now of like really understanding how much muscle you need in order to bring that competitive edge, I'd be like, oh no, you need to still build. or or at least during the time I was breastfeeding, like really put a lot of focus on building muscle, and then, you know, and then focusing on leaning down after the breastfeeding. But I kind of was still in this mindset of just kind of going through the motions at the gym, like working out good, but not having uh, a more like focused approach to it,
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I have to put on a lot more size on my shoulders. And these are the exercises that I need to get stronger in and progress myself in to get there. It was kind of just like, well, I do these lifts feel good. I have decent muscle tone on my body. So now I just need to lean down. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, it's more than that. Like, if you're really wanting to bring a competitive edge, you've got to have that shape, that
Yeah.
you've built before you lean down. And I feel like it's just, yeah, too many women or, amateur competitors think that it's just a matter of being leaner. And leanness does matter for sure. You want to bring in a conditioned look, but if that shape is not under there, then you're just going to look skinny up there, and
Mm-hmm.
you want to look built and tight and lean.
Yes,
So
and this has been talked about over and over and over again by not just, like coaches and other IFBB competitors, but like Sandy Williamson. And pretty much any head judge you talk to is going to tell you the same thing, like leaner isn't always better.
right.
And if that's coming from the people who are going to determine where you end up in this sport, probably
Mm-hmm.
good to listen. And to that point, what do you think, aside from having that level of awareness you have now, right? You look, it's always in retrospect, right? Like, oh, I know now, like, I could have had more muscle or whatever, and then you got to take that time later. But what
Right.
else do you think really sets apart a pro competitor from an amateur?
I think they have more understanding of what they need to be doing in order to get there. Like, they don't, like, they know if they have built enough muscle or not. They know, they just know the bigger picture of things. They know the basics of what they need to be focusing on first before the other things happen. And they know, I mean, I feel like for me transitioning from an amateur to a pro, to more of a pro type of like mindset, and I understand the basics of what need to be worked on, um, before working on other things. So I think, like I was saying, I think a lot of amateur athletes just, they don't understand the different depths of it, and they just see the outer things of, like, they see this really lean, girl in a bikini up on stage, and they look so trim, and they have great muscle tone, but they don't quite understand the process of what they need to do to get to that level. So they don't understand, like, well, you may need to go into a really big building season, or, well, um, you want a smaller waist. It's not about being leaner. It's about putting on more size in your shoulders and glutes to give you the appearance of a smaller waist. It's so they don't understand like really what's going on underneath to get you there. They, to get to that level. So I feel like almost like some athletes are kind of just they've kind of been, I think maybe some athletes haven't really had maybe the best coaches who have guided them or have been real with them, and they keep telling them like, oh yeah, we'll get you there. And they're not, they're telling them things that they want to hear, and that, and thing, just to kind of keeping them on a string or wanting their money, unfortunately, or whatever. And it's like, I really think investing in a coach who's willing to give you the raw and the real of like, look, if you want to be here, then let me explain to you what we need to do to get you there, and it's just, it's really important to just know those basics.
I think that comes with like a level of respect too for the sport and for the title and for what's required to actually earn that and represent that. Because I think I know I'm speaking from personal experience, like when you get into competing and you get on a roll and you're doing really well and you're performing well, you start getting excited about what's possible. And then,
Right.
It does take a good coach to say, hey, you're doing really well, but like you're going to waste your time if you keep going in circles like this. Like for me, it was like I was doing well, but I wasn't ready. I was not anywhere near national ready. But in my mind, I was like, I want to be a pro and I want to step on a national stage and I want to do all these things, all these things. It took time for me I had to take time off. My coach told me, you need to like put on so much more muscle. You don't have the density, like your shape is getting there, but it's just not where it needs to be. And it's like that was the wake up call I needed, because I was the focus was not where it needed to be to actually create the result I wanted. And now I feel like my mindset's actually in the pro level mindset, right where it needs to be to actually get there, where I'm so detached from the outcome that the process is more important. And I have a new level of also this podcast has helped me, but I have a new level of respect for the sport and the shape and the criteria that I think can get jaded when we're just focused on ourselves and getting a title and this and that, when really it's like, let's look at the big picture, like you said.
Right. And I feel like, when you've adopted more of like a pro type mindset, or, have risen up to that level, I think you have this, you're willing to do certain things because you just understand the importance of them. Like you truly have either like already experienced them, or you just understand the importance of them. Like, for example, going into like something that my coach had to really ingrain in me is like going into a 4 to 5 month off season and hardcore off season, where getting your intake up really high. And at the time, before I had really gone into like a thought out and structured off season, I just didn't really understand the importance of it. And I didn't really think much of it, or thought maybe it was silly, or thought I didn't need it. And, those basics, you start to understand the importance of them more. You start to understand the importance of consistency even more when you're on that level, or you start to understand the importance of incorporating more whole foods in your preps, because you just understand all of the basic reasons for doing all of these. It's like, well, yeah, you need to eat healthier on your preps or incorporate more whole foods. But do you know why? Like, do you know why? Do you know why that is important? Like, it's going to be important to, for your thyroid and for your hormones. And I feel like once you start really understanding the basics of it, then it makes you want to do it more. It's not just this little, like, well, I do it because it's healthier. Well, that's really vague, and that doesn't make you want to do it. Like, just because something's healthy, like, what are those underlying reasons as to why it's important to do these
Yes.
things? I feel like when people know those reasons or have their coach explain to them those reasons, then it's like it clicks in their head and they have this extra drive to do those things because they understand why it's important to do them, not just being told to do them, but why they should be doing them. So,
Yes. Preach. I love that. Like, there's got to be something deeper that's really driving that. And it can't just be because someone told you to, but it's got to be from a place of really understanding. It's kind of like if you're
yes.
in school and you're studying something, you get it, but you're still using the
Mhm.
equations. And then
Right.
there's a point where it clicks, and now you're doing
And
it
you can
because,
apply
yes, exactly. Exactly. So,
yeah,
okay, what
so much.
before we kind of like wrap this up, and I want to get your advice too in a minute, but what are your personal goals now as an IFBB pro competing? And I believe you're in prep, right?
Yeah, I am like
Okay. Yeah,
I
so what's
was
your goal?
So I was currently prepping for the Wasatch Warrior show that was going to be in Salt Lake um, in April.
Mhm.
April 18th is when it was. And then obviously,
Yep.
got put off. And now it's going to be happening July 11th. So that's my current plan is I want to do my pro debut there just because my coach is, the coaches on the Fitless team are all from Utah, and I have a lot of clients in Utah. And my family's in Utah. So it's
Mhm.
kind of just feels good to do that show. It's always kind of been, the show that I've wanted to do for my pro debut. So I'm really excited to just get on stage and see how I look compared to the other pros. Cause it's just, it's hard to know until you get up there and see yourself and how you compare and what the judges think, with seeing you compared to the other pros. And so I have like kind of that, I feel really confident with the physique I'm bringing as a pro now. And I feel like I've improved from my last package of when I turned pro. So I'm just really eager to just showcase my hard work and to see where I stand, next to these other pros. And I'm I am a very competitive person, and there's a part of me that's fearful that I I have this desire definitely to get, I mean, I would love to get first call outs. And that's, my goal going into this would be to get first call outs, as any athlete's, goal is
Yes.
to get first call outs. But, I would, I'm really eager to get the feedback from, I think Becky's going to be judging at that show,
Oh.
and just to get feedback from her on things I can improve on. And it's just going to be a very enlightening experience. And I really hope to do well, and making first call outs would make me so happy. But I know I need to understand that I'm on this new playing field now. And I may very well be very much humbled, through this experience. And I need to, mentally be okay with just simply competing as a pro is a privilege, and I
Mm.
feel very privileged to be at this new, um, on this new competitive level. So that in and of itself is amazing.
True champion. Really, really, really committed to the growth and willing to learn and seeing the benefit in just stepping up there and what can I improve on. Like true champions, I really believe go in already knowing that there's going to be something to learn. At least that a lot of the champions I respect and admire have that mindset. So I appreciate you sharing your goals with us as well as some of those fears and experiences you're feeling going into it. And I'm excited to see that happen. And I hope it happens for you. A
I
lot
know.
of us are so eager to compete. Like, oh my God, I'm hungry too, girl, but it's gonna be so worth
Uh,
it.
yeah. And right now, I've honestly, with what's going on in the world, it's actually been really nice to have something to hold on to during this time, and something that's given me structure and something to still continue shooting for. It's been really healthy, honestly. And I feel like it's just given me some direction during this time. And I feel like I've been able to, get to this happy place with my macros where I'm still maintaining leanness pretty close to where my stage weight would be, but staying structured and focused, but balanced and happy. So I'm grateful that I'm able to be in that spot right now,
Yes.
and I'm just like,
Yes.
you know what? Like if as long as I just stay here, then I'm going to be ready for when shows start, opening back up, and it's all going to be good. I'm just going to keep working hard, keep staying focused and consistent. And yeah, that's been driving me a lot now, is just having something to hold on to, during
Totally.
this time. Really good.
Yeah, I feel like since shifting my focus from like full on prep mode to more like, okay, well, let's see what happens mode, my body's actually
Mm.
responded so well. Like, I'm killing my reverse, and yet my body's like,
Yeah.
it's like this has been. I was talking to my mom about this. Like, this has been more rewarding than having stepped on stage, because I've had more opportunity to learn. And this was like the
Hmm.
way it was supposed to be. Like, I'm experimenting more with my coach, like, from a
Right.
sense of like, I wouldn't have learned this about my body or whatever if this hadn't
Hmm.
happened. So, yeah, taking this as an opportunity and seeing it as something that you can hold on to, something you can celebrate, is so powerful.
Yeah, I think it really has given, yeah, it's for sure given me more insight on things. I've been able to try things that I wouldn't have, with my food, and or see how far I can take my body and on these calories or whatever, it's just more information for you to apply to future preps, and
Exactly.
which is money. I mean, that is gold, like I think people like to keep preps in short time frames, and they don't. And I think it's probably shown a lot of people like, wow, longer preps can be amazing, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's longer and it's going to require some more focus and everything. But gosh, I think a lot of people who have stayed pretty on point and everything have grown a lot from this. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how it plays out and what packages are brought to the stage end of the
Mm-hmm.
year.
I'm
Oh,
very excited about that, and I'm especially excited to watch your journey. I feel even more invested in it now than I was before. So, I'd
well,
love.
thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome, and I appreciate you sharing so much with us today. And if you could give us your best advice, actually, you know what? Let me change this question up a little bit for this mom series. I want to know what your best advice would be for future moms who are competing but thinking of starting a family, and then your best advice or maybe a tip for new moms who are wanting to get into competing for the first time or back into it after time off. So the first question, I'll start with that because I need to repeat myself probably.
Okay.
Advice for future moms who are competing but thinking of starting a family.
Yeah, I would say, one of the biggest things is to just keep, keep, like, find ways to continue to apply what you're already doing in your life that makes you happy, the foods that you're eating, the lifestyle that you have, like, continue doing that when you choose to start a family. Um, and it's going to be okay. Like, they're going to, like, it's very easy to still eat healthy, and teach your family how to eat healthy and incorporate those foods when you choose to have a family. And I think, once you have your sweet little baby, it's like you have this desire to feed them wholesome foods anyways,
Mm.
and to keep things on, kids always do really well with structure and on, you know, uh, keeping things structured throughout the day and scheduled and all of that. I feel like, if you've been prepping for a while, like, you're going to make a great mom because you already know how to structure things out well, how to plan ahead and make things work. So I feel like if you, continue to apply those same principles of planning and structuring your days out and thinking ahead, then you're going to be just fine, you know?
I love that. I love that. And how about your advice for, or maybe a tip for new moms who want to get into competing for the first time or back into it after time off? I mean, what you just shared really applies to this situation as well, but was there
Yeah.
anything else?
So to moms who, who would love to compete. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, so much of what I said applies to that as well. I would think, just stepping back from your daily routine, how you have been doing things already with your family, and figuring out how to tweak things here and there to make things work. Because it's like, as a mom, you kind of get in this routine, you have things structured, you have your meals that you typically have. So you're going to have to step back and think like, all right, how do I make these meals work for me while prepping and still make my family happier? Like, what little changes can I make to these meals that I make, or to my day with my kids, to make it work? It's really just, you just got to step back and just think about little changes that you can make. And those little changes can make all the difference and can help you, you know, prep for a show, but then, keep your family happy. So
I love that. I think that that's amazing advice, and you're truly living that advice as well and speaking from experience. So I appreciate you coming on, and I'd love for everyone to be able to appreciate you as well. So can you share where they can connect with you and find you?
yeah, so my Instagram is at Chantel Hall, ChantelHall_IFBB Pro. And I really like to, I do like official posts here and there, but I really post a lot of stuff on my Instagram stories. And just like, I post food that I eat, helpful tips, things to be working on to create change in your life. I don't know, just lots of different things. I'll get on there and talk, right? And I do a lot of, I'll go over different form things with exercises. And so I really like to share a lot on there. And I get a lot of interaction with my followers through my stories. So make sure you follow those. And I like to, yeah, just continue giving lots of tips and
Awesome.
advice. So
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And yeah, you do post a lot of great info on your stories. I've enjoyed watching them over the past couple of weeks. And to
yeah.
everyone listening, all of those, that link's going to be in the show notes page. Plus, you can see, more about her team and her coaching there too. So I'll make sure all of that's on celestial.fit/podcast, where you can always find the show notes. If you're listening right away, it'll be at the top of the page. If not, you can look up her name in the category section and it'll be there with all her info as well. So thank you guys for joining us for another episode. And with all of that being said, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. And just make it awesome.